Hello friends, how are you? Shall we start our class today? So let's go. Laura stood in front of the mirror, barely recognizing herself. The woman staring back at her wasn't just anyone. It was a bride, dressed in layers of delicate lace, a tiara of tiny pearls adorning her chestnut hair. Her makeup was flawless, her eyes sparkling with excitement. Today was the day she had dreamed of since she was a little girl, twirling in her mother's oversized wedding veil. A gentle knock on the door pulled her from her thoughts. "Sweetheart," her mother's voice came through, warm and full of emotion. "It's time." Laura's heart fluttered. A mixture of nerves and exhilaration coursed through her veins as she took a deep breath. This was it. Outside the bridal suite, the church was filled with guests, their hushed whispers and occasional laughter filling the space with anticipation. Every pew was adorned with fresh white roses, and candlelight flickered gently against the stained glass windows. The atmosphere was magical, just as she had imagined it would be. As she stepped into the hallway, her father extended his arm to her, his eyes glistening with unshed tears. "You look stunning," he whispered. "Thank you, Dad." Her voice wavered slightly, emotion thick in her throat. The music started, the soft, elegant notes of the wedding march. Her pulse quickened. One step at a time, she reminded herself. As she approached the grand doors of the church, a strange sensation pricked at the back of her mind. There was an odd tension in the air, something just slightly off. She glanced around. Some guests exchanged nervous glances, others whispered behind their hands. It was subtle but noticeable. Her brows furrowed. Was this just pre-wedding jitters, or was something wrong? Shaking off the unease, she straightened her shoulders. Today was not the day for doubts. Today was the day she would marry the love of her life. The doors swung open. A wave of warmth and light flooded over her. The aisle stretched out before her, lined with familiar faces, their expressions a mix of joy and anticipation. And at the very end, waiting for her, would be Daniel. Only, as her gaze locked onto the altar, her breath hitched. Something was wrong. Her steps slowed. The music played on, but the sight before her made the world tilt slightly on its axis. Daniel wasn't there. A ripple of unease moved through the crowd. Murmurs swelled, confusion painted across every face. Her heart pounded against her ribs. No, this had to be a mistake. He was here. He had to be. But as she stood frozen in the middle of the aisle, realization began to dawn. Daniel was gone. Laura's breath caught in her throat. The music still played, the guests still watched, but everything around her blurred into a haze of disbelief. Daniel wasn't there. Her fingers tightened around the bouquet as her mind scrambled for an explanation. Maybe he was just late, maybe he had gotten caught up in something and was on his way. But deep down, an unsettling feeling curled in her stomach. Something wasn't right. A murmur swept through the church like a slow-moving wave. People shifted uncomfortably in their seats, glancing around, whispering. The priest cleared his throat, his expression carefully composed, but Laura saw the uncertainty in his eyes. Her father gently touched her arm. "Sweetheart," he whispered, his voice tinged with concern. "Do you want to sit down for a moment?" "No," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. "He's coming. He wouldn't do this to me." But as the seconds stretched into what felt like hours, no one came rushing through the doors. No best man frantically whispered an excuse in her ear. No message arrived explaining a delay. Just silence. Then a movement from the left. The maid of honor, Sophia, pushed through the crowd, her face pale. She held something in her trembling hands, a small envelope. "Laura," she said carefully, her voice uneven. "This was left in the groom's suite." A knot formed in Laura's throat. Her hands shook as she reached for the envelope, her vision blurring as she recognized Daniel's handwriting on the front. "To Laura." Her breath came in short, shallow bursts. This wasn't happening. This had to be a mistake. "Maybe we should go somewhere private," Sophia murmured. But Laura barely heard her. With trembling fingers, she tore open the envelope, unfolding the letter inside. The words swam before her eyes, but she forced herself to read. "Laura, I'm so sorry. I can't do this. Please forgive me. I love you, but there's something you don't know. I have to go. Daniel." Her entire body turned cold. The words seared into her mind, each one cutting deeper than the last. She stared at the letter, willing the words to change, for some hidden message to appear, explaining that this was all just some cruel prank. But no, he was gone. Her legs wobbled. The bouquet slipped from her fingers, crashing onto the marble floor. Gasps echoed around her, but they felt distant, as if she were trapped behind glass, watching her own nightmare unfold. Tears welled in her eyes, but she refused to let them fall. Not here. Not in front of everyone. The priest took a hesitant step forward. "Miss Laura, perhaps we should." But she wasn't listening. Her body moved on its own, turning, pushing past her father, past Sophia, past the whispers and the concerned glances. She needed air. She needed to breathe. She needed to understand why. As she stumbled out of the church, the letter clutched tightly in her fist, one thought repeated in her mind over and over. What did he mean, "There's something I don't know"? The cold air hit Laura's face as she stepped outside the church, but it did nothing to clear the chaos in her mind. Her fingers clutched the crumpled letter, her breath coming in uneven gasps. The world around her blurred, muffled voices, distant honking, the rustling of her wedding dress in the wind. Sophia rushed after her, heels clicking against the stone steps. "Laura, wait." But Laura didn't stop. She couldn't. Her thoughts were spinning too fast, crashing into one another like waves in a storm. "I'm so sorry. I can't do this. There's something you don't know. What did he mean? What was so big, so terrifying that he had chosen to leave her, on their wedding day, instead of facing it? Her father and mother appeared in the doorway, worry etched on their faces. More guests trickled out, whispering among themselves, eyes darting toward her, full of pity and curiosity. She couldn't stand it. "I need to go," she muttered, stepping off the church steps. "Laura," her father reached for her arm, but she pulled away. I need to think." Before anyone could stop her, she lifted her dress and hurried toward the waiting limo, throwing open the door and sliding inside. The driver hesitated, unsure of what to do. "Take me home," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. The car pulled away, and as the church faded into the distance, the weight of everything crashed down on her. She had been left at the altar. Her chest tightened, and for the first time the tears broke free. Silent at first, then shaking sobs that racked her entire body. She pressed her forehead against the window, staring at the passing streets, her vision distorted by tears. Why, Daniel? Why? The apartment felt suffocatingly empty when she stepped inside. The decorations from the bachelorette party still hung in the kitchen, a cruel reminder of the celebration that was supposed to be. A bottle of champagne sat unopened on the counter. She tore off her veil, throwing it onto the couch. The wedding dress, once a symbol of her happiest day, now felt like a prison. With frantic hands, she unzipped it, letting it pool onto the floor as she stood there in her slip, her body trembling. She needed answers. Laura sat on the edge of the couch, smoothing out the crumpled letter. "Please forgive me. I love you, but there's something you don't know." She wiped at her tears, determination replacing her heartbreak. There had to be something. A clue. Anything. With shaking hands, she reached for her phone. Voicemail. Again. Her frustration boiled over. "Where the hell are you, Daniel?" She threw the phone onto the couch and exhaled sharply. She wasn't the type to sit around and wait. If Daniel wouldn't give her answers, she'd find them herself. Then an idea hit her. She rushed to the bedroom, her fingers flying as she pulled open drawers, rummaging through Daniel's things. The scent of his cologne still clung to his shirts, a painful reminder of what she had lost. Nothing seemed out of the ordinary. No hidden letters, no suspicious notes. Just his usual things until she checked his desk. Laura opened the laptop. The screen lit up, and to her surprise, it was unlocked. Her heart pounded. Daniel was meticulous about his privacy. He never left his laptop without a password. Something was off. She clicked through his emails, scrolling quickly. At first, it was the usual, work correspondence, wedding confirmations. But then her eyes caught a subject line that made her blood run cold. "We need to talk before the wedding. You can't keep hiding this." The sender's name was unfamiliar. Melissa Carter. Her pulse hammered as she clicked on it. "Daniel, we don't have much time. You need to tell her before it's too late. If you don't, I will. This secret won't stay buried forever." A chill ran down Laura's spine. Who was Melissa Carter? What secret was she talking about? Her fingers trembled as she searched for more emails, but just as she found another one from Melissa, something even more disturbing happened. The laptop screen went black. It had shut down. Laura's breath caught in her throat. She frantically pressed the power button, but nothing happened. It was as if someone had just pulled the plug on the truth before she could reach it. Heart racing, she sat back, gripping the edges of the desk. Daniel was hiding something. Something big enough to leave her standing at the altar. And she was going to find out what. Laura's heart pounded in her chest as she stared at the dark screen. This wasn't just cold feet. Daniel had left her for a reason, something he had been hiding. And whoever Melissa Carter was, she knew the truth. She grabbed her phone again, fingers flying as she typed the name into the search bar. A few results popped up, nothing too revealing. A LinkedIn profile, a few old social media accounts. But then, at the bottom of the page, something caught her eye. Dr. Melissa Carter, psychologist, family counseling specialist. Laura's breath hitched. A therapist? Her mind raced. Had Daniel been seeing a therapist and never told her? Or was this about something else entirely? There was only one way to find out. An hour later, Laura stood outside a modest brick office building, her stomach twisting in knots. The sign near the entrance read, Dr. Melissa Carter, Private Practice. She wasn't sure what she was expecting, maybe some grand revelation the moment she walked in. But all she felt was a suffocating mix of nerves and anger. She pushed the door open. A small waiting area greeted her, the scent of lavender filling the air. Behind a reception desk, a young assistant looked up with a polite smile. "Can I help you?" Laura hesitated. What was she supposed to say? "Hi, I'm the abandoned bride, and I think my fiancé left me because of a secret involving his therapist. I need to speak to Dr. Carter," she finally said, her voice steadier than she felt. "It's urgent." The assistant frowned. "She's with a client. Do you have an appointment?" "No, but I think she knows why my fiancé left me at the altar." The assistant blinked, clearly taken aback. Before she could respond, a door to the side opened, and a woman in her early 40s stepped out. She was tall, with sharp eyes and an air of quiet authority. "I'm Dr. Carter," she said, her gaze locking onto Laura's. "And you must be Laura." Laura's stomach dropped. "She knows me?" Dr. Carter turned to the assistant. "Please hold my next appointment." Then, looking back at Laura, she gestured toward her office. "Come in." The office was warm and inviting, but Laura barely noticed. She sat on the couch, hands gripping her knees, while Dr. Carter settled into a chair across from her. "You already knew who I was," Laura started, voice tight. "That means you knew Daniel was leaving me." Dr. Carter sighed. "I was hoping he would tell you himself." Laura let out a hollow laugh. "Well, he didn't. He left me a letter and disappeared." A flicker of regret crossed the woman's face. "Laura, what I'm about to tell you isn't easy to hear." "Then just say it." Dr. Carter hesitated, then finally spoke. "Daniel's been keeping something from you, something about his past." Laura's pulse quickened. "His past?" "He's been in therapy with me for the last 8 months. It started with anxiety. But as our sessions went on, it became clear that his fears were tied to something much deeper." Laura's breath caught. "Daniel never told me he was in therapy." Dr. Carter leaned forward. "There's no easy way to say this, Laura. But Daniel didn't just run away because he was scared of marriage. He ran because he believed he was protecting you." A cold shiver ran down Laura's spine. "Protecting me from what?" The therapist hesitated. "From himself." Laura's heart pounded. "I don't understand." Dr. Carter exhaled, choosing her words carefully. "Daniel had a difficult childhood, more than he ever let on. He witnessed things no child should. And because of that, he's spent years believing that he's dangerous. The word hit Laura like a slap. Dangerous. Dr. Carter nodded. He's afraid he'll hurt the people he loves. And when your wedding day got closer, those fears grew overwhelming. Laura's mind reeled. This couldn't be real. Daniel, the man who had held her when she cried, who had whispered promises of forever, was afraid of himself. He would never hurt me, she whispered. I know, Dr. Carter said gently. And deep down he knows too. But trauma doesn't always listen to logic. Laura's chest tightened. So he just left? Without even giving me the chance to understand? Dr. Carter's gaze softened. Because in his mind, leaving was the only way to keep you safe. Silence filled the room, heavy and suffocating. Laura swallowed hard. She wanted to be angry. She wanted to scream at Daniel for making this decision for her. But more than anything, she wanted to find him. Because if he thought running was the answer, he was wrong. Laura stepped out of Dr. Carter's office, her mind spinning with everything she had just learned. The city around her moved as if nothing had happened. Cars honking, people rushing by, but her world had completely shifted. Daniel wasn't just scared of commitment. He was terrified of himself. And instead of facing it, he had run. She gritted her teeth. No, she wasn't going to let him do this. If Daniel thought disappearing would solve everything, he had underestimated her. She pulled out her phone and opened their messages. A dozen unread texts, all sent by her, all unanswered. Then she tried calling again. Voicemail. Again. She exhaled sharply. If he wouldn't pick up, she'd find him another way. Back at her apartment, Laura paced the living room, her laptop open on the coffee table. She had spent the last hour combing through Daniel's emails, searching his social media, and checking every place she could think of. Nothing. Frustration burned in her chest. You can't just vanish, Daniel, she muttered to herself. Then something clicked. He had vanished, which meant he had planned this. And if he planned it, there had to be breadcrumbs. Her eyes flickered to the suitcase in the corner of the bedroom, the one he had packed for their honeymoon. It was still there, untouched. Her stomach clenched. If he really planned to leave forever, he would have taken it. She rushed to their closet. His clothes were still there. His shoes. Even his favorite leather jacket. Her pulse quickened. He didn't leave town. She grabbed her phone again and dialed the only person who might have answers. The call barely rang before it was answered. Laura. The voice was hesitant. Nathan. She swallowed hard. Where is he? A pause. I don't. Don't lie to me. Her voice was sharper than she intended, but she didn't care. You're his best friend. If anyone knows where he went, it's you. Another pause. Then a quiet sigh. Laura, he made me promise. I don't care what he made you promise. Her throat tightened. I deserve to know. Silence stretched between them. Then, finally, he's at his parents' lake house. Laura's breath caught. Of course. The lake house. It was a quiet place tucked away in the woods by the water. Daniel had taken her there once years ago. It was his escape, the one place where the world couldn't reach him. "Thank you," she whispered. Nathan hesitated. "Laura, be careful with him." She gripped the phone tighter. "I'm not afraid of him." "I know," Nathan said softly. "But he's afraid of himself." The drive to the lake house was long and winding, the road growing darker as she left the city behind. Trees stretched on either side of her, tall and imposing, and the air grew colder as she neared the water. Her hands clenched the wheel. She wasn't sure what she would find when she got there. A broken man? A ghost of the person she loved? But she couldn't turn back now. Finally, the cabin came into view, nestled between the trees. The lights inside were off, but a faint glow came from the back, probably from the porch overlooking the lake. Laura parked and stepped out, her heart pounding. She approached the front door, hesitated, then knocked. No answer. She knocked again, louder this time. Still nothing. Taking a deep breath, she stepped around the cabin, following the glow. And there he was. Daniel sat on the edge of the wooden dock, staring at the water. He looked different, his suit jacket gone, his white shirt slightly wrinkled, his tie undone. His hair was messier than usual, and his shoulders were tense, as if carrying a weight too heavy to bear. Laura's breath hitched. This was the man who left her at the altar. And yet she still loved him. She stepped forward, the wood creaking beneath her feet. Daniel flinched, but he didn't turn. "I knew you'd find me." His voice was hoarse, almost resigned. Laura swallowed hard. "Then why did you run?" He exhaled slowly. "Because I had to." "No," she said firmly, stepping closer. "You chose to." Finally he turned, and when his eyes met hers, she saw everything, the pain, the fear, the love. Tears burned her eyes. "Daniel, why?" He looked away. "Because I didn't want to ruin you." Her chest tightened. "You didn't ruin me, Daniel. You broke me." Silence. Then, finally, his voice cracked. "I don't know how to be the man you deserve." Laura's heart ached. She knelt beside him, taking his hands. "Then let's figure it out together." His eyes searched hers, desperate, conflicted. "I don't know if I can." She squeezed his hands tighter. "Then let me show you." And for the first time, Daniel didn't pull away. Daniel didn't pull his hands away from hers, but he also didn't speak for a long moment. The silence between them was heavy, as if each breath carried the weight of the conversation they were about to have. The cold breeze from the lake tousled their hair, and the soft sound of the small waves hitting the dock filled the space between their uncertainties. Laura didn't want to pressure him, but she couldn't just stand there waiting for him to decide to speak. She had waited long enough. "Daniel!" Her voice came out softer than she expected. "I deserve the truth." He lowered his head, his eyes fixed on the worn wooden planks of the dock. His fingers tightened around hers slightly before he let out a long, painful sigh. "I spent months thinking I loved you enough to marry you," he finally said, his voice rough. "But on the wedding day, something inside me screamed that I couldn't do it." Laura felt her heart clench. But why? What changed? He let out a humorless laugh, shaking his head. Nothing changed, Laura. That's the problem. I'm the same broken man I've always been. But that day I finally saw it. She frowned. You've always been incredible to me, Daniel. I never asked for perfection. But you deserved more than someone who can't even trust himself. He ran a hand down his face, frustrated. I grew up watching my father destroy my mother, cheating, lying, pretending to be a good man. I spent my entire life swearing I'd never be like him. A chill ran down Laura's spine. He never talked about his father. It was a forbidden topic. You're not him. Daniel let out a bitter chuckle. Aren't I? How can I be sure? My father married my mother, promising eternal love. And years later, she cried alone every night while he was somewhere else. He looked at Laura, his eyes filled with raw fear. What if one day I do that to you? Shock ran through her body. Is that what you're afraid of? That one day you'll hurt me like he hurt your mother? He looked away as if ashamed. What if I become someone who disappoints you? What if I love you now, but one day that's not enough? Laura felt her eyes sting. You think running away from our wedding was better than taking that risk? Daniel didn't answer. The pain inside her mixed with understanding. She saw now that it wasn't about not loving her. It was about the fear of failing. She took a deep breath, trying to stay calm. Love doesn't come with guarantees, Daniel. I could wake up tomorrow and realize that your little habits annoy me in ways I never noticed before. You could discover that I snore or that I'm terrible at cooking. One corner of his mouth lifted slightly. I've already tasted your cooking. I know you're terrible. She let out a shaky laugh, but her eyes were full of emotion. The point is that love isn't about being certain that everything will be perfect. It's about choosing to try every day, even when you're scared. He closed his eyes for a moment, absorbing her words. Then, when he opened them, his voice came out almost as a whisper. What if I'm not strong enough for that? Laura swallowed hard. Then let me be strong for both of us until you can. The wind blew around them, and for a moment everything felt suspended. He looked at her as if he were seeing something new, something he didn't know he needed. Daniel took a deep breath, and then, for the first time since leaving her at the altar, he held her hands tightly. I wish I had been brave enough to say this before. Laura felt her heart squeeze. Then say it now. He hesitated, but when he spoke, his voice carried the weight he had been holding in for so long. I love you, Laura. Her eyes closed for a second, letting those words wrap around her like a warm blanket in the cold night. When she opened them, she found Daniel's gaze full of fear and hope. She smiled, squeezing his hands. Then maybe we still have a chance. He didn't respond right away, but for the first time she saw something different in him. Not an escape, not a barrier, but a small, almost imperceptible possibility. And maybe that was enough to start again. The words hung between them, fragile yet powerful. I love you, Laura. They had once meant everything, a promise of forever. But now, after everything that had happened, they felt like both a beginning and an apology. Laura searched his face, looking for hesitation, doubt, any sign that he was regretting saying it. But all she saw was fear, not of her but of himself. She took a slow breath, steadying her voice. Love isn't just words, Daniel. It's a choice. Every day. He nodded, but there was something distant in his expression. And what if I don't know how to be the man you deserve? She exhaled softly, her fingers tightening around his. Then start by being honest with me. No more running. Daniel looked down at their hands as if gathering courage. Then, after a moment, he met her eyes again. I don't want to run anymore. His voice was firm but laced with uncertainty. Laura nodded. Then let's figure this out together. The lake stretched out behind them, dark and endless, mirroring the unknown future ahead. She wasn't naive, love alone wouldn't erase the pain of what had happened. But for the first time she saw a chance. And that was something. They walked in silence back toward town, the cold night air wrapping around them like a quiet reminder of how much had changed. Laura felt the weight of unspoken words between them, but she didn't push. Not yet. As they neared the small cafe where they had shared countless late-night conversations, Daniel finally broke the silence. Do you ever think about what would have happened if I had stayed? Laura's steps slowed. She looked at him, her heart tightening. All the time. He swallowed. Would you have been happy? Her lips parted, but no immediate answer came. It would have been easy to say yes, to tell him that she had dreamed of their wedding day for so long and that it would have been perfect. But that wasn't entirely true. I would have been happy, she admitted. But not if it meant you were pretending to be someone you weren't. Daniel let out a slow breath. I wasn't pretending to love you, Laura. That was real. She offered him a small, sad smile. Then maybe we have something worth saving. They reached the cafe, the warm glow from inside casting a golden hue onto the empty street. Daniel hesitated at the door. Do you want to go in? Laura studied his face. There was uncertainty in his eyes, but also something new, a willingness to try. She nodded. Yes. As they stepped inside, the scent of coffee and cinnamon wrapped around them, familiar and comforting. They found a small table in the corner, away from the few late-night customers scattered around. Daniel ran a hand through his hair, looking down at the wooden surface between them. I don't know where to start. Laura tilted her head slightly. Then let me help. She reached across the table, palm up, offering him something simple yet profound, a chance to begin again. After a long moment, he took her hand. And just like that, the first fragile thread of something new wove itself between them. It wasn't a promise. It wasn't certainty. But it was a start. The warmth of his hand in hers should have been enough to soothe Laura's heart, but doubts still clung to her like shadows. Sitting in that quiet cafe, surrounded by the familiar scent of coffee and cinnamon, she realized just how much had changed between them. How do you rebuild something after it's been shattered? Daniel traced patterns on the wooden table, his gaze flickering between her face and the swirling steam of his untouched coffee. I've been trying to figure out what to say, but I think I owe you more than just words. Laura swallowed, her fingers tightening slightly around his. Then show me, Daniel. If you really don't want to run anymore, prove it. His jaw tensed. I want to. I just don't know how. She sighed softly, trying to hold back the frustration bubbling inside her. It wasn't enough to want something, you had to fight for it. Start by telling me the truth, she said, her voice quieter now. The whole truth. Daniel hesitated, his fingers clenching into a fist before he let out a deep breath. Leaving you at the altar wasn't just about my fear of turning into my father. It was about... His voice trailed off, and he shook his head as if struggling to say the words. It was about the things I never told you. A chill ran down Laura's spine. What things? He met her gaze, and she saw it, the raw pain buried beneath years of silence. The week before the wedding, my mother called me. Laura blinked, confused. Okay. Daniel exhaled sharply. She told me something that completely wrecked me. She said she stayed with my father for too long. That she ignored the warning signs, the doubts, because she loved him and thought love was enough. He let out a bitter laugh. And then she told me that she saw those same signs in me. Laura's breath hitched. What? She said that deep down I had the same restless energy my father had. That one day I'd wake up and realize I wanted something else. That I'd hurt you without meaning to. His eyes darkened. She told me I should let you go before I ruined you. A sharp pain stabbed through Laura's chest. And you believed her? Daniel ran a hand down his face. At the time? Yes. Because I already had doubts. I already feared becoming him. And the second she said it out loud, it felt like confirmation. Silence stretched between them, heavy and suffocating. Laura's hands trembled as she placed them flat on the table. So let me get this straight. You didn't leave because you stopped loving me. You left because your mother told you that you would destroy me someday? He nodded, guilt clouding his features. I thought I was doing the right thing. Laura let out a sharp, bitter laugh, shaking her head. The right thing. Daniel, you didn't protect me, you broke me. His face twisted with regret. I know. She clenched her jaw, forcing herself to breathe through the wave of emotions crashing over her. Do you still believe her? Daniel hesitated for a fraction of a second, but it was enough. Laura pulled her hand away. That hesitation, however brief, was everything. You do, she whispered, her voice almost breaking. Even now, after everything, you still think you're going to hurt me. His silence was answer enough. Laura's heart pounded. How could they ever have a future if deep down he was convinced it would end in pain? She pushed her chair back, the screech of the wood against the floor cutting through the quiet hum of the cafe. Daniel's eyes widened. Laura. I can't do this, Daniel. Her voice wavered, but she forced herself to stay strong. I can't spend my life convincing you that you're not your father. That you won't wake up one day and decide I was just a mistake. He stood up quickly, reaching for her. That's not what I want. She took a step back, shaking her head. Then stop acting like you're doomed to repeat his mistakes. Daniel's throat bobbed as he swallowed hard. I don't know how. Laura felt the sting of tears behind her eyes, but she refused to let them fall. "Then I can't be the one to teach you." For a moment, neither of them spoke. The cafe around them faded, the voices of other customers turning into meaningless noise. Daniel's fingers curled at his sides. "So this is it?" She inhaled shakily. "I don't know. But I do know that I can't fix what's broken inside you, Daniel. That's something you have to do on your own." The words hit like a physical blow. She saw the pain in his eyes, the way his hands clenched, as if he wanted to hold on to something that was slipping away. But she also saw something else. A realization. Maybe this was the moment he needed to finally understand. Laura turned toward the door, her steps slow, deliberate. She didn't want to walk away from him. But sometimes love wasn't about holding on, it was about knowing when to let go. As she stepped outside into the cold night, a single thought echoed in her mind. If he truly loved her, he would find a way back.